Good morning, everyone. Thank you. My name is Dr. Sarah Ewing, and I serve as the Provost and Vice President for Student Experience at Gannon University. I want to start just by thanking all of you for joining us today and participating and engaging in the process and feedback session that we're providing and are excited to offer to all of you. We appreciate your time. I want to take a moment to just thank the members of the project design team, which included individuals from Gannon University as well as the Erie County Public Library. And the work was facilitated by Building Systems Incorporated, and the design and renderings that you'll see today were developed and provided by our architect, NePTWNE Architects Associates of Pittsburgh. I want to thank everyone who helped also make these feedback sessions possible for all of us. During this 2-hour session, I will begin with a brief overview of Project NePTWNE, and then direct your attention to the screen to see a brief video by Dr. Sherry Mason, our new director of Project NePTWNE. She's going to share a vision and talk a little bit about the potential programming available through the new center. Our principal architect, Marty Busser, will then provide a presentation of the architectural overview of the center that showcases our center's design and proposed exhibits. This is going to be followed by an opportunity to gather your comments and your feedback and questions through a moderated session led by Deb Thompson, President and CEO of Strategy Solutions. Gannon University has a long history in aquatic research, education, and outreach. Project NePTWNE is an initiative Gannon launched in 2022 as part of the Erie Investment Playbook led by Infinite Erie, and serves as a holistic approach to address water quality, climate change, economic development, and quality of life. Project NePTWNE, which stands for Nano and Polymer Technology for Water and Neural Networks in Erie, aims to reconcile the environment with the economy to preserve and store our Lake Erie, while simultaneously responding to community needs and growing the economy through job creation. The Great Lakes Research and Education Center is one of 6 phases of Project NePTWNE. Project NePTWNE in particular the center, provides our students and faculty with opportunities for hands-on education, research, and service learning, while engaging the community with us in meaningful work dedicated to the preservation of Lake Erie. The center aims to provide equitable access to educational resources regarding water quality and research that affects our daily lives. By combining hands-on activities, cutting-edge technology, and expert-led programming, the center serves to inspire visitors to act toward a more sustainable future for Lake Erie and the surrounding region. It will serve as a valuable educational resource for the community with the goal of fostering awareness, appreciation, and stewardship of our water resources. The center's overall design includes 3 areas: interactive exhibit space, a NOAA Science on a Sphere exhibit, and an education and research lab. All of these will be accessible to the public at no cost and cater to individuals of all ages. To share more about vision and programming possible through Project NePTWNE and the center, I'd like to direct your attention to the screen for a brief video from Dr. Mason.
Hello, my name is Dr. Sherry Mason. I also go by Sam. I'm the newly appointed director of Project NePTWNE. Unfortunately, I can't be with you today because I'm traveling out of the country, but I look forward and appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and look forward to engaging with your feedback. The center is being located within the Blasco Library, and I think that's central to the importance of what the center represents. It is an education and research center that is connected to the water and is about water quality and water research. Patrons to the library come into the library. They can immediately interact with the freely available, readily accessible exhibit space that will be open anytime the library is open. This will allow a way for the community and visitors to our area to immediately engage and learn about Lake Erie, the Great Lakes, and how water connects us all to each other. The location within the library is also instrumental to the educational portion of the center because the library already receives busloads of 80 to 150 students at a time coming during the academic year to the library for programming. It's so many students that the library has been collaborating with the Hagen History Center and the Maritime Museum in order to break the larger cohort into smaller clumps of students that can rotate between different exhibits. And so our center can immediately become part of that rotation where we're engaging the students within our exhibit space, the Science on the Sphere, and hands-on activities through our waterfront location. Outside of the academic year, we have a great opportunity to train teachers following the model of the research vessel, the Lake Guardian. Teachers, there's a new standard coming down the pipeline called STEEL. This is requirement for all teachers, K through 12, and an implicit part of these new requirements is what are called MEWEs, that is meaningful watershed educational experiences. And they have to be integrated into the curriculum at multiple points through that K through 12 education. These new standards become effective in 2025 to 2026, and teachers need to be educated in how to do these meaningful watershed education experiences. We can offer that, especially through our collaborations with agencies like the Pennsylvania Sea Grant. In addition, outside of the academic year, I'm picturing all sorts of shipboard science activities, summer camps, and including the community on single-day or multi-day excursions out into Presque Isle Bay and Lake Erie. In these kind of experiences, we can go out, we can throw Secchi discs, we can trawl for fish, we can collect water samples, and then we can bring those samples into our wet lab and our research and education laboratory space in order to examine those samples in more depth. So we can do fish dissections and look at plankton under microscopes and engage the community in water quality measurements. As we're doing these experiences as well, I picture us creating certain places within Presque Isle Bay and Lake Erie where we're collecting these samples. And so then we're also building out this research experience. And the community and the kids and the faculty all become part of this. So we're collecting samples at certain points in time and over certain spaces and doing this consistently over months and years and decades. This kind of consistent monitoring is not currently happening within Presque Isle Bay or Lake Erie. And so then this adds to that research component of the center and also makes us very attractive in terms of grant funding to support all of the work that we're doing. I've said this before and I will continue to say this. I'm going to beat this drum. The future of Erie is blue. And this center, under the leadership of Gannon University, is bringing that to us. It's an amazing opportunity for us to recognize that as we care for the environment, as we understand our implicit connection to the environment, it's not only good for us as a people, but for our economy and our community. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I want to ask you to keep in mind the comments by Dr. Mason and the potential programming, the ideas that helped inform, again, with the work and discussions among members of Gannon University and the Erie County Public Library to the design that you're about to see. And so now I would like to invite Marty Busser, our principal architect from NePTWNE Associates Architects, to the podium, and he will lead us through the architectural overview of the Great Lakes Research and Education Center.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Ewing. My name is Marty Busser. I am a principal architect of NePTWNE Associates Architects. We've had the honor of working with this group of people for the past couple months to create an inclusive design for the research center, and we're going to go through these things here. I want to thank Dr. Mason for her opening video. She really did a good explanation of what the center is all about, and I'm going to try to show you where the things that she spoke about are going to occur within that space. So this first slide is a overview of the library, so we can get an understanding of where the 3,000 square foot center is located. The main entrance to the library is over here, and the library stacks are in the back. This location here is some offices and a seating area within the library at the moment. There's also access to a rear private entry, where a lot of the samples and things that Dr. Mason spoke of would be transferred into the space, so it does not need to come through the main library. Here's a close-up of the space as it currently exists. The majority of the space is this open office area that is private offices to the library staff, and the seating area that currently is just open within the library. There's also a couple of meeting rooms that were in that space. Again, here's that private back of house entrance that we spoke of. Here's the overall plan that we've generated with everybody. There's the three components that we've been speaking of. So in that seating space of the library, we're introducing an interactive space for the community to use and learn about all the programs that Dr. Mason spoke of. It then transfers into what we call the NOAA. It's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They have this Science on a Sphere program. There's over 600 programs that can be shown on this sphere, and it's a great education tool. So this can be used for people who want to have classes, or even the general public can go and learn things that are available on this sphere. The next component is the research lab back in this area. Again, accessed off the private entrance. There, you'll see in the future here, there's glass and everything, so that's visible to the library and open for use. Here we wanted to show again, the area in red is open to library and community patrons all the time. This is your place that you can learn about the water quality, all those things that Dr. Mason spoke of. The green, again, is open to the library most of the time. If there is a class using that space, there's going to be doors here so that creates an acoustic separation from the library stacks. But when there's not a class there, that's open, and the general public can walk around and interact themselves. The blue is that research space. It is going to be available for the public to use. Anybody can sign up for time to use that research facility. This is kind of an idea that we established for the exhibits that the general community can interact with all the time. It goes from a micro level to a macro level. So when you come into the space, there's an exhibit that has all the micro things that you can interact with. There's going to be terrariums and 3D printed fish, taxidermy, just things to learn all about what's in Lake Erie itself. Those things can be touched, they can be felt, they can be multilingual so that it's accessible to everybody in the area. You would then follow that to a more local table that we're calling for Lake Erie. It has a contoured map on it, and we can show real-time data of the lake on the table. You can choose to look at water temperatures or algae growth or anything like that you want to learn about that's happening in Lake Erie at that time. Behind that will be a large screen that is dedicated more to the Great Lakes themselves. Similar data, but not as detailed as you would find on the table. You can then follow it into the NOAA sphere that we're calling global. And the back wall of the NOAA sphere room, we're going to portray kind of a starry night scene, how the stars would look over Lake Erie. So we're going to concentrate on the front exhibits here. Again, this fish and wildlife display, the Lake Erie table, the regional wall table. There's a map on the floor. We're looking at ways that we can interact with the floor as well. Say you're at the interactive table and you want to learn about how maybe a blue pike used to swim through the lakes. There might be a trail that shows up down on the floor that you can follow. This is what it would look like from the library. So the stacks are off here to the left. And this is that Erie table that we spoke of. The table to the exhibit to the left we're calling the bookshelves. And then in the back is the kind of the Great Lakes Regional. Again, this bookshelf we think will be really cool and really interactive. And what we really like about this is that you see terrariums and fish and things like that. We'll have books from the library collection itself. So if you're reading about something that's in the terrarium, you can take that book out. So it's a nice way to combine the library and the education center together. Again, here's more details of the different things that could be happening on that shelf area, that micro level. Here's a closer look at the Lake Erie Regional table. Again, you see it's a contoured map. It can show different water temperatures, things like that, all projected from above. The idea here for these exhibits is that they're interactive, but they're not easily broken. So again, with overhead projectors and things like that, people can interact with those easily, learn, but it's not something that's going to take a lot of maintenance. Beyond that, you can see the room where the noosphere is. That's our next piece to concentrate on here. The noosphere will have movable seating around it so that it's flexible space. When there's no class going on, the seating can be pulled to the sides. When there's something going on, the seating is available for the general public. The back wall, again, is kind of that starry night over Lake Erie that we spoke of. And then we're excited for the opportunities on this wall over here. We'd like to interact with some local artists, create some local art on the wall, maybe use beach glass, things like that that are in Lake Erie. Have those on a rolling exhibit, just to really show the pride of the community. It's also a place to have information about Project NePTWNE. Here's a view from inside that room. This is a 6-foot sphere, so it's the largest available from that group. It really gives people a good chance to see all the different programming. Beyond that, you can see back into the exhibit space. You can see the glass walls that we're proposing. So when it's open, you don't really see it too much, but when it's closed, you can still see in. There's a podium behind there that the general public can use to run the programs on the sphere when we do close that room. And another nice thing about the glass wall is we plan to use that also as exhibits. We can talk about different fish and wildlife that live in the lake on that glass wall. Beyond, you can see the openness into the research lab beyond. Again, here's another view looking into that room, the sphere, the glass opening partition, the public art. We even have a place in the back here where we would like to concentrate maybe on the blue pike and other types of sport fishing so that people can understand what's happened to Lake Erie over time, where we've lost some of those great resources we had, and try to educate people on how to not lose those resources in the future. The final component is the research lab. Again, as I said, it's going to be available for the library to use programming in, so that some of the classes that Dr. Mason was talking about can use the space. It's designed in a way to be super flexible. So you see our renderings here, it's storage around the outside and movable tables, so that it's available for all kinds of different research opportunities. Have microscopes, overhead power is essential to that, so you can really arrange the room any way you want. Again, you can see how it's open to the library beyond. Again, more of the idea of just being able to do different types of research in that space. And then along with that research lab is the actual, we're calling wet lab. This will be the area where you come in off the private entrance, maybe with coolers of samples and things like that. Take care of all those super wet components in that lab. It has floor drains, it has all, it's isolated, all those things to keep that moisture and any odors outside of the library. It's all set within that space. You can prepare your petri dishes and things like that and take them into the lab space where there's more room. This is one of the pieces of equipment that we've been trying to research for that space, and a number of tanks for housing different specimens. Not quite sure what this might be at the end of the day, but it gives you an idea of how that lab itself is kind of where those wet components are housed versus the research area that's more dry. And that's the basic overview of the space. So, thank you.
Thank you, Marty. And so at this point, I want to mention two things. One, we're very welcome to your feedback on things that you would like to see in some of these areas, particularly the exhibit space. That bookshelf that he highlighted at the very beginning in the interactive space, there are a lot of areas in which we are interested in hearing what would you like to see in those areas, or types of programming that we might be able to accommodate in the new center. In addition, you may have noticed the name, Great Lakes Research and Education Center versus Great Lakes Education and Research Center. We are collecting all feedback online, and there are ways to do so using the library computers or your own device. And we encourage you to submit your feedback. That's all collected anonymously unless you choose to disclose and ask us to follow up with you. And so through that feedback process, we will capture any thoughts you have about the name. And so we encourage you to submit any ideas, either relative to those two options, switching the education and research, or anything new that you might propose to name the center. So at this point, we're going to transition to the open session where I'm going to invite Deb Thompson, again, President and CEO of Strategies Solution, to lead all of you to provide your comments, your feedback, your questions to the panel. And I'll also invite the members of the panel to the front tables, which will include myself, as well as Marty Busser, that you just heard from, and Jessica Stefano, Director of the Erie County Public Library.
Thank you, Dr. Ewing, and thank you everyone for attending today. We're really excited that you're able to join us for this public feedback session for the Great Lakes Education and Research Center. As Dr. Ewing said, I'm Deb Thompson, and I'm going to be the moderator for this portion of the session. I would first like to go over our format and talk a little bit about how this is going to work. We're going to ask you to follow this format and the guidelines that we're establishing here so that we're able to use our time efficiently and effectively and collect as much feedback as possible. First, each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to express any feedback or ask any questions. There's going to be a timer displayed on the screen so that we're able to count down the time that you have remaining. During this portion, our panel is not going to be answering questions to take away from the time for the feedback. We're going to leave the last 15 minutes of our session today for members of the panel to summarize the feedback of what they heard, be able to answer the questions that they can address now, and any concerns that they're able, and talk about next steps to provide additional feedback and any answers to questions that they're not able to answer here directly. We're going to do our best to allow each person who would like to share their thoughts and feedback during the session, during the time frame we have. However, as I mentioned, we are going to be stopping this session 15 minutes before it's over to be respectful of everyone's time and to hear a summary of the feedback. We're going to only allow one person at a time at the microphone today. There's a few other guidelines that we're also going to invite you to follow, and ask that you address your comments to members of the panel and not to others in the audience. And please be advised that I may be directing any off-topic comments, so I may interrupt and I may not jump in from time to time to just make sure that we can give the feedback that we need and redirect anything that might be off-topic or not related to what we're talking about. We're going to ask everyone to be respectful and not to share any information or say anything that might be construed as a personal attack, an insult, or any disruptive behavior, because we're just not going to permit that today. and ask you to keep applause or any other verbal reactions to a minimum to respect all of the speakers' time. We appreciate all of your cooperation with this format and look forward to the great ideas that you'll be sharing today. Now, there's quite a few people here in attendance, which is why we're limiting the feedback to 3 minutes each. If time doesn't permit everyone who wants to speak to have the opportunity to speak today, you're welcome to come back and join us during this evening session from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Or you can share your thoughts and feedback online. There's a form that's going to be available, and I'm going to put up a QR code on the screen that will take you to the form that you can access at the end of the presentation. So we want to make sure we get everyone's thoughts and comments, even if you're not all interested in or able to come up to the microphone. I know some people are shy, they don't necessarily want to come to the microphone. We want to give everybody an opportunity to share their input. And if you're not able to scan the code and complete the form that way, there's computers available in the library that you can access that form, or you can go to Gannon's website, gannon.edu/water, and complete the form from there. Now, and again, at 12:45 today, we're going to be transitioning to provide each of the panelists around 3 to 4 minutes to summarize what they've heard. I'd like to invite anyone who does want to speak and provide input. You can start lining up by the microphone. And we'll be giving each person, there's our timer. And we're going to give everyone their 3 minutes to express their thoughts and input. And again, if you're interested and want to provide feedback, we'll share a QR code at the end if you're not wanting to come up and speak at the microphone. And when you come up, we'd like you to share your name and any organization you represent if you do, and then you can start with your comments.
My name is Freda Tepper. I live in the city of Erie. I would like to comment that parking was very difficult. So there may be people who would like to have been here who were unable to find parking. I'm a retired orientation and mobility instructor, and I look at the design and I'm thinking, well, gee, how are my friends who are visually impaired going to navigate around this thing, get any benefit from all these visually oriented exhibits? You're going to have Braille, you're going to have headphones, so so much of this thing is visually oriented. And the way I saw the research labs, they did not appear to be designed to be accommodating to people who use all sorts of mobility devices. I do want to say that it is offensive that somebody talked about meeting rooms. Those meeting rooms were some of the most precious space in the library. They were the collaboratories. So out of respect for those people who found that an essential part of their life, you should not refer to it that way in the future. I guess what most bothers me is very little of what I saw there. Almost none of that needs to be in our library. And and almost none of it needs to be at the Bayfront or near the water. So I would like Gannon to take a better look at their project and say, why are we here? Why are we causing this disruption to a public facility to which we were not invited by the public? We were invited by one man. That is what is my biggest feedback. But as I said, I'm really concerned about the parking. I'm really concerned about the loss of important space. I see no space difference between the shelves in your area. So I am concerned about noise, and I'm concerned about how this is a design for able-bodied people, people who are sighted, and we just don't need it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, my name is Art Leopold. First, I want to thank Gannon for having a public meeting. I always believe in sunshine, allowing the public to be in on discussions, deliberations, and to give public comment. I think without question, I've not heard very many negative comments about the project itself. I think we all believe that it's certainly worthwhile. I think that the major issue is the commotion that was brought up from initiating the project and the way it was kind of forced onto the public. And Gannon, although you may not have initiated, you have some responsibility to that. I think the other thing is the fiscal malfeasance that occurs when you give away space that is so cheap compared to what it might be for the regular public. Now, that's not a consideration that we need to litigate today. Certainly that's something that has come up. So again, I look forward to what comes of the project. In my looking at it, doesn't look like it isn't anything that could happen down at the Tom Ridge Center. But obviously, this is a good space to be. There's a lot of businesses, a lot of organizations, a lot of projects that would like to be here. And so I look forward to this project as it unfolds. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your feedback.
My name is Mary Rennie. I basically represent myself. I'm a former employee of the Erie County Public Library and the County of Erie. It would have been nice to know this format before we stepped up here, because many of us expected to have posed questions that would be answered in real time today. And clearly that's not happening. But I will talk about some of my questions. The donors who gave to the land acquisition and construction of the Blasco Library, Dr. Raymond Blasco included, they could have given instead to institutions of higher learning, which have very large endowments, but they didn't. Dr. Raymond Blasco in particular gave his fortune because he believed passionately in the common good. One of my questions to you, including Dr. Mason, who I expected to be here today, was a question of what is the common good as you see it, and how do you see Gannon's role in that? And my question is, how do you justify your current intention to occupy this space? The representatives from Gannon University have said over the last several months that they wish to save or improve upon the library. During that time, we have seen an exodus of library staff, and we are on our third executive director of the Erie County Public Library in just a handful of months. And there are many vacant positions. So I would like Gannon University and NePTWNE to speak to us about the Department of Library and Information Sciences, including the number of educated and qualified library science professionals and instructors who are being tapped to work on this project to fold it in with the mission of the Erie County Public Library. Where is the expertise regarding public libraries? Do you have degreed librarians on staff? How many? The common good is not about book learning. It's about empowerment. It's about people. It's about building relationships and teaching people, to value their community, and to understand their responsibility to each other. It is not a gimme. It is tools given to people with the understanding that they have a responsibility to the community at large. And that includes Gannon University. Please rise to that.
My name is Gretchen Blau. One thing that struck me in the presentation is how the former computer lab was being called a seating area. That former computer lab was moved upstairs, not because it was brought downstairs because of COVID, but because in the master plan, library users asked for it to be downstairs for accessibility purposes. I'd like to know why Gannon thinks that they have priority over any library users that have accessibility issues. Yes, there is an elevator, however, elevators fail from time to time. Why can't Gannon use one of its 51 properties in the city that they don't pay taxes on to house this effort? There's nothing wrong with the effort, we're not slamming the effort, it belongs elsewhere. Why are there only 4 days of public comments? If Gannon really cared about what the public thought, this would not have been done, the whole process, in such a secretive manner. There was public input for the library master plan that I just referred to, but that was completely ignored to make way for this project. What's the status for the approval of Science on a Spear? Erie isn't listed on the website, and from what I've read up on it, there's a whole application process. So I was wondering, where are you in that application process? Gannon wasn't elected by the taxpayers, so I'm a little confused as to why they're making decisions about what goes in our library. In addition, Gannon doesn't have a library science program. If they place such a high priority on programming in libraries, it would seem that they would have a library science program. Will there be Sandusky background checks for all students and employees working in the library since they are in close proximity to children? Gannon wants to dock their boat and have walking distance access for their students. You already have these facilities available at the Trek Center, so I'm a little bit curious as to why the duplication or the redundancy of effort here. Again, I would reiterate with what Mary said, it would have been nice if we had had some, advance notice of how this would be formatted. It seems a little hastily put together. We don't even get to ask questions of Dr. Mason.
Thank you for your input.
My name is Ruth Swanee. I'm a resident of Erie for my lifetime, which is law. I'm a graduate of Gannon University, first as a biology major, and second as a counselor. And I have to say, you have a beautiful project. It does not belong in the library. I use the library. I choose to not have a computer at home, not to have internet access at home. I use the library. I use the space you're calling now a reading area, which was the computer lab. I see your small laboratory. I mean, there were many students at least when I went. The labs at Gannon were quite large and quite adequate. I do not see a need for a lab in the library. I value the library as a library. I value it for its books, for its programs, but not as a place for science experiments. This project belongs somewhere else. And Martin, I didn't hear how you were separating the HVAC system for this project from the library at large. If you are putting a laboratory and a wet lab in this building, you need to separate that system from the system here. I wish you well, but please go somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
My name is Krista Perry. I'm a lifelong Erie resident and library lover, and I am very curious about the scope of Project Neptune and its impact on our public library. A public library is an opportunity for every citizen to indulge in anything that they can imagine, and to me, the massive presence of such a narrow, focused idea is something that disturbs and concerns me greatly. I want to understand better about summer camps and flexibility of the spaces, and what does that mean? Is it only for science? Because when I think about what a public library offers, it is about a million other things than just about our beautiful Lake Erie, which I value and love. I think your project looks amazing. I do not think that it belongs in this library, especially now based on the presentation you just gave. I'm more convinced it doesn't belong here, because you are narrow-casting our library. You're taking away any type of opportunity that anybody in this county, in this beautiful region, can think of to bring into this library. Those opportunities have never come up and were never offered, and it's deeply concerning. I've just seen nut lease displays as a little kid. You're talking about little kids, right? You're talking about little kids coming in here. As a little kid, I might have liked the display 1 or 2 times when I visited here, but when I came to the library, it was to look for books. It was to hide. It was to be free, to have my autonomy. It was a place that was safe. And it was a place that was supposed to be quiet, and there was a place where I felt like I could be myself and be free. And it's just, those types of opportunities should still continue to be afforded to children and to families and to folks. It can't just be about one thing in a public, free library that belongs to every single citizen and visitor of this region. And so your presentation has concerned me even further than I was before. I have so many questions because we didn't know the parameters of this. It wasn't made, I mean, my friend at work showed me the article that this was coming up so that I knew that it was coming up. He also had questions too. He's at work right now today, but he also had questions too. He haven't given us really any time at all to really sit down and meaningful, have a dialogue about what's going on. And I think that should be what you write down as something that happens to be, that you give us more of that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Hello and good morning. My name is Isidori. I live in Erie County. I've lived here for 30 years. I love the library, as do everybody else in the room. And I think my children were raised here, and I think it's very important. I agree with what's been said already. This is a very nice project. It's a very nice project. It looks lovely. It sounds lovely. I think there's plenty of other locations where it could be. I think the library belongs to the people. It's a people's space. Just the other day on social media, I saw something where there was a cubicle where mother could work and her baby was right next door. There are so many other options for our library. I think our library has traditionally been flexible to the needs of the people. When they developed the teen room, when they developed the making space, they were flexible. That's what the people had wanted, right? So I think we need to maintain the whole space of the Blasco to reflect the needs of the people. Once we put an installation in there that's 25 years, there's nothing in the contract that says after 25 years that installation will come back out again. There's nothing. And there's nothing in the contract that states how that installation will be maintained. It doesn't say, well, what if that sphere breaks down? Who's going to fix it? Who's going to maintain it? Are we going to be left with a lot of broken equipment for 24 years after the first year? We don't know. The thing mainly with the contract that concerns me is that there is 3,200 square feet for sure that rent will be paid on, but in addition to that, there's shared use of the classroom, shared use of the Idea Lab, access to the building garage, the restrooms, and other common areas of the library. To me, a common area is the whole area that I can access as a member of the public. So now this lease says Gannon University has access to the whole library, so that leads me to wonder, does the library belong to the people or does it belong to Gannon? Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Hi everyone, I'm Alan Swagonski. I'm a Gannon grad, former Gannon employee, retiree. I'm a frequent user of the library. I've used the Heritage Room frequently in research for books I've written about Erie, and I'll continue to do so. I also have used the meeting rooms for some meetings with my team members, so it's been a great resource for me. I love the library. I also think it's a great synergy with Project NePTWNE, and I absolutely approve of the location. And I encourage more input. For me, attending today, I'm looking at a lot of diagrams and listening to the architect and everyone else. I need some time to process it. There's more that I need to absorb and process. What I'll do is I'll take my time, come up with a few more questions, suggestions. I'll be sending that online. I encourage other people to do the same. Let me take a quick peek at my notes. The one other thing I've used a lot is the meeting rooms, and I was wondering if the Education and Research Lab, I thought I heard mentioned that it was a space that could be reserved by the public. So I'd be interested in knowing if that's something that could also potentially be used to replace some of that lost meeting space. So that's my concern. But thanks again for the forum.
Thank you so much for your report.
Sorry I'm late. I had work and then I had to park pretty far to get here. My name is Molna and I'm an avid reliant of the library. Thank you for hosting these study sessions for public input, and I hope that you have more of them as more people hear about the opportunity to give their input. I have several questions and concerns, so I'm only communicating a few, but some things I'm concerned about is you project an increased patronage to the library. However, the lease says that the maintenance of things such as parking lots, HVAC systems, and plumbing of the mutual spaces are on the landlord, which if you truly believe that there will be an increase in patronage, that will be wear and tear on the parking lot and all of these things. And the library maintenance and repair budget was reduced by $20,000 in December. So I'm concerned about shared responsibility for those things. I'm also curious, I was wondering why there's shared use of the Idea Lab, because on the website it says that one of the first phases of Project NePTWNE was the creation of the makerspace at the Gannon Institution. So I'm not quite sure I'm understanding why there's need for the Idea Lab, especially because on the lease I don't see anything that limits a usage from Gannon, and presumably the public won't be able to use Gannon's makerspace. So I'm a bit concerned as to what limits the sort of monopolization from that. Creativity is very important to foster. And then also, I'm curious about whether Gannon would be considering opening up their library study rooms and computer usage, because especially with construction, the noise alone is going to be extremely distracting and is going to disrupt their usability, on top of them eventually being a shared space. Some people, including myself, use these rooms for telehealth appointments, virtual interviews, trainings, and things like that. And I just feel like there's not much, that there's not as much shared space beyond the library. I see how Gannon is benefiting from it, and while I understand that the purposes of this research is to benefit the public, I'm one of science. I like science. I see its impact, but I'm concerned about it being at the expense of the public. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input.
Hi, I'm Brian Graff. I'm from Erie. I also want to thank Gannon and the architect and the library for hosting this event to get our feedback and also to brief us on the design. I just have a few concerns. One of them is when I was watching the briefing about the design, I kept looking for some entry point for the public, from the outside. And to me, it looked like the only entrance for the general public would be through that wide open entryway into the interactive room. And if that's the case, and we're expecting a lot of students and, let's say, tourists coming through to see your lab and your education center, are they all going to be coming through the front of the library and walking through the library to get to that open space, to that interactive room. And the other concern I have is about the interface between your lab and the library, specifically with the interactive room. Again, when I saw that design, it looked like it was just a wide open wall. And I'm thinking of all the kids that are going to be in there, students. We were talking about perhaps large numbers as you were anticipating. What kind of noise is that going to bring to the library, and how is that going to impact the other patrons to the library? So, maybe we need to consider something that might close that off, or at least, I'm sure you've thought about this, you've probably been talking about it. How do you minimize the amount of noise that is going to come from this facility into the library, so the library can go and accomplish its intended function? That's all I have. Again, thank you for being here. If I think anything else, I'll send it online. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, Richard Mikowski. I'm the Vice President of the Alumni Board at Gannon. Looks phenomenal, project looks awesome. I'll tell you this, I'm currently planning, one of my friends is having his mom come visit from Australia, and we're trying to plan a week of activities for her. We're thinking Niagara Falls, Presque Isle. And I can't help to, when I was looking at this, I can't help feeling that if this was functioning, in 2 weeks when she's getting here, this would be an attraction for her to come learn to see where her son is living. So I understand some of the noise concerns, because I do believe it's going to be an attraction on the Bayfront, and I plan on bringing people here when they come to visit, Erie. So I believe there will be an uptick in patronage. So I understand the noise concerns, but I really think it looks great, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to take advantage of it. So thank you for hosting this forum and showing us the great designs. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your input.
Hi, my name is Anna McCartney. I'm an retired environmental educator. So I know about all this stuff, about MeWes for teachers. We've been doing those programs for a long, long time. They're not new. And they've been done in many places, including the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. So my concern is the fact that wonderful stuff, but it really doesn't belong in the library. And the elephant in the room that none of you have addressed is the fact that in addition to that 3,200 square feet, you are also getting the use of lots of common areas at no extra cost. And so how is that fair to library users, to people who pay taxes? The fact that you are getting all the spaces in yellow, plus the fact that I didn't know you were going to have a private entrance, so that should be included too, but it's not here on this map. And so you're using those spaces for free, for such a low rent. It's unbelievable. The other thing, with all the rooms that you are getting to use for free, others have to pay for the use of the auditorium. They have to pay for the Admiral room. They have to pay for room 219. You are getting all those spaces as part of common areas at no extra cost. You're already getting rock bottom prices for the rent. And so how is that okay for the library and for any taxpayer who pays taxes, whereas Gannon does not? And you are getting primo space. The other thing on that map that you don't show is the area that goes into that open space. On the pictures, I see the rug. So here, where you walk into right here, where you walk into that space, that's not going to be used by the library either, because it's going to be open. And I really agree with the guy who said the noise and all these people that you expect to come as tourists and people who are, and it's great, but it doesn't belong in the public library. And I don't understand why it took so long to get a public forum for people to be able to express their feelings about our library. It's July 31st, and this program, when is the program going to kick off? The walls are going to be torn down. Environmentally, it's wrong. I mean, you're tearing down a space that you're now going to put up a new space. It should be, there's many, many projects and people that have partnered with the library, and they partnered. They put their exhibit in, but it doesn't become a permanent space. They actually contribute to the programs in the library without taking space and benefiting themselves at the same time. So I think so many of us are really upset that this was done without any public input before it was decided. And so we still are not happy. We think you don't belong in the library. I don't, anyway. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
Well, Margaret Watts, educator for over 35 years, a couple of master's degrees, work with children of all different abilities, types, genders, races, cultures, and ages. I can tell you that organizing field trips to the flagship Niagara for numbers of years, the Erie Experience Museum for numbers of years, in excess of 100 kids at a time coming into any of these facilities with their parents. It's extremely noisy. It's extremely confusing. Just want to give you a heads up that this is not the place to have 100+ people walking into a public library.
Thank you for your input.
Hi, my name is Kathy Schaff. I come to you as an educator of 43 years and a kindergarten teacher for 22 years and experience from the preschool to the 8th grade. Kids are noisy. I just wanted to comment that I did have an issue with parking today. I did use my city council placard on a reserve spot, so I hope my car is not towed away. So parking is an issue. I went in June to Florida with was there with my grandchildren who live there. And we went to the Marine Discovery Center in New Smyrna Beach, which is having their 25th anniversary. So it would be good to collaborate with other institutions. And we went to the Daytona Aquarium and Rainforest Adventure. And I see the educational science purpose. And years ago, I went to the classes and things. But what about collaborating with Mercyhurst University and Penn State Barron University and LECOM and getting grants and having like a mini aquarium? Daytona's wasn't really big. And putting it somewhere like the GAF Center or wherever that was, and creating its own space. Collaboration is so important, and that way you're not just standing out on your own. You're not just handling all this responsibility by yourselves, but institutionally you're bringing other people, and even Penn West, you know, just try to do something like that, get some grants from the state, and you could build your own separate center along the Bayfront. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Are there others who would like to come up and share their thoughts and feelings?
Yes, we did.
Questions? Okay, we're going to turn it over to our panelists. Oh, please do.
Just recording it, I'll put it on YouTube later.
No apology necessary.
Think about it. Beverly Potts, and I am a citizen of Erie, Pennsylvania my entire life. I was a bank teller. Did you ever hear the smell of fish? Let me tell you. Let me explain to you. You walk down the beach after storm. And the rift at the seaside or lakeside is fish, odor of fish. As a bank teller, I started out at Security Peoples on 8th and State. And Chivas Seafood was built right beside my bank. So going to work, going from work, the odor and smell of a fish store would make you just want to vomit. I'm sorry to say this. So you're going to bring an odor into the public library. You need to address it. I apologize for my last burst of energy here. And I apologize to you for starting up. I just very much, but that's something you haven't thought about. You know, maybe you've thought about that. I don't know, really, truly. But I think that this is a marvelous idea, and I think that there's other places that it could be. You could build a place, you've got enough funds to build a place, and I think it doesn't belong in public library.
Thank you for your input. Anyone else? Okay, Jessica.
Can you hear me? No. I'm gonna make sure I don't start until. Hello?
Yep.
There we go.
I'm just gonna swap. We're librarians, we're resourceful. I first want to say that I am incredibly grateful for the number of people who came and shared concerns about the library. I think that what we have here at the library is an incredible resource, and I think that it is a testament to our impact on the community that so many of you are concerned about what's happening at the library. As I step into the role, I do not have the magical ability to go back in time and change what has been done before I stepped into this role. My job is to step in today and do the best that I can for my staff and my community moving forward. I have a colleague here at the library who I value very much, who says, like, the job of a librarian is harder than people realize because we have to live 10 years in the past and we have to live 10 years in the future. And it's our job to make opportunities available to people to be able to do the same. A couple of things that I heard today that I do want to specifically address. The loss of the collaboratories. We are all very aware of the importance of collaboratories. I do want to reassure you that the collaboratories are being moved and not lost. So there will be availability for collaboratory usage here at the library, moving forward with no interruption. Another thing that I wanted to address is the increase in patronage. It is our goal as a library, regardless of who moves into our building, to increase patronage. Our ability to bring more people into the building is something that we want. I hope that we outgrow our parking lot and have incredible data to be able to make a case for having more parking, whether we have people in the building with us or not. Increasing patronage is part of our goal because we can't reach people, we can't serve the community if we can't get them to us. I also want to kind of talk about, a lot of people mentioned, how does this joining in our building work toward the common good? I think that, as with many organizations in town, we have parallel missions, and those of you who are concerned about libraries across the country, libraries are really in a position where we have to do what we can to make ourselves relevant in the community, building partnerships so that we have allies. This is an opportunity for us to work together to serve the mission of providing literacy opportunities to our community. So we are already bringing in busloads of 100 kids at a time, working with other organizations. We are already doing those things. And some of the things that people are mentioning that they wish they had more of at the library is opportunities for some of these science-related things, environmental literacy. There are more things that we need to be able to offer to the community than we can afford to do on our own. This gives us an opportunity to do some of those things and partner with people who already have the expertise to bring us things that we don't currently have here in the library. And the last thing that I just want to say is that as we're talking, and I too wish that Dr. Mason could be here, and I hope that you all have the opportunity to speak with her, because I think having a conversation with her about the way that the library can collaborate on programming with the team coming in from Gannon made this an exciting opportunity for me in a way that it was not before. I imagine storytime kids walking the path of their drinking water on the floor in the open space. I imagine middle schoolers puzzling through the path of invasive species. We are responsible at the library to provide literacy opportunities. Environmental literacy is one of those, and there is no point in us at a time when our budgets are tight across all different types of organizations to duplicate when we can partner instead.
Is my microphone working? Here's evidence. I'll address several of the architecture type issues that were brought up. One of the first ones that was brought up was the ADA access and visually impaired and those things, and that is definitely on the forefront. All the spaces are designed to meet all the accessibility standards. There's sinks within the lab that are set at ADA heights, all the reach ranges, all those things are definitely on the agenda as far as mobility is concerned. When it comes to visually impaired and hearing and things like that, the exhibits will all have braille, they'll all have the ability to be broadcast in different languages. So the table, for example, with the contours is something you can touch. You can feel the depth of Lake Erie when you touch that table. So these things are all definitely on our minds, and we will continue to develop the designs with those types of things in mind. As far as the noise concerns go, again, the science on the sphere that has the ability to be put in its own space separated from the library. So when a program is going on, that is acoustically separated. The exhibits out front that are still within the library, we would use the cone type acoustics that you might have come across in other libraries. When you stand in a space, you can hear that from overhead, but that sound doesn't travel out beyond that cone. So there's technologies like that that we're planning to use for these exhibits to try to keep the noise concerns down low. That's something that Jessica's brought up since day one. And we even looked at putting walls around that exhibit space, but thought that taking the walls down made it more welcoming to the community to not have to go into a room to interact with those exhibits. The HVAC concerns. The HVAC system will be separated. The only part that would continue to be used with the system that's there now is that front exhibit area, just because it's open to the library, so we would use that system. The back research lab, the wet lab, the noosphere are all on a new system. Those are all, if you're familiar with how it works, they're all negatively pressured so that air and odors and noise and all those things don't travel out of the space. They're all kind of sucked through that space. So that's how we can control those types of things. Again, I think an odor thing was brought up earlier. That's a way to control that. And those will be on their own separate controlled spaces, run through its own system, not the library system. Another concern that I had mentioned or had heard of, and maybe Dr. Ewing will speak to this more, but was the entrance. So the library currently has a private entrance on the back. I don't know if it was planned open or not, but it is a private entrance off the east side of the parking lot towards the Greyhound station. So the employees use that space. We are simply putting a door into that corridor to also allow us to access that, so we don't have to bring samples through the library, so that there's the opportunity for classes to enter through that space, not going through the library, not creating that traffic and noise that a class might bring through that space. And on top of that, the class size. I heard people talking about the size of people. The research lab is designed to house about 18 to 20 people. We've talked to a number of people, and that's the largest group that we'd like to have in there. And that kind of works for each space. So 18 to 20 people can kind of transcribe through the 3 different spaces at a time. So it's not hundreds and hundreds of people coming into the space. And then there was a question about the construction period. The one thing that we will do during the construction period is build a separation wall. So it'll go from the floor all the way up to the ceiling. It'll be acoustically separated, it'll keep dust out. So the library shouldn't feel any effects of construction going through there. We have ways to design those walls to allow very minimal noise to get through during those construction times. I think I addressed most of the ones that I can address.
All right, so now the last.
It's not on.
Yeah. I know. Testing. All right, so first, I also want to just say thank you again for all of you for taking the time to be here today, to share your comments, your feedback, and honestly to share your love of the library. It's really appreciated. I can feel your passion and how much this means to all of you. And so I appreciate the comments, and I encourage and invite all of you to also provide your feedback online through the feedback form. And again, that can be accessed through the library computers, both here at the public library as well as the branch libraries. We really want to capture that feedback, and we also invite continued dialogue. One of the comments was, allowing for more interaction, more conversation. We wanted to ensure and maximize everyone's time, that everyone had an opportunity to share their feedback. And so that's the decision to set the format the way we did. But if you choose, not required, but if you choose, you are welcome to share your contact information with us when you complete the feedback form. And if you want us to follow up with you, we'll continue to have ongoing conversations, discussions, or try to answer questions you have for us. So I want to reiterate some of what has already been shared. And a couple more straightforward questions that were addressed, the ADA compliance and use of Braille at all exhibits, and we did talk about having devices that people can listen to hear about the exhibits for those who might be visually or have low hearing. We also talked about adding some of the exhibits that are already in the library into particularly those headphone sets that might be designed to further enhance the ability to access not only exhibits in the new center, but also the exhibits that are provided through the library now. So we do intend and we'll continue to have those conversations. That is really important to us, that all of the information is accessible to those who choose to participate or use the center. You heard about the noise, so I won't reiterate that. And one other piece, to further Jessica's comment and address the question about the common good. I do see a lot of alignment in our missions in terms of education and wanting to help individuals find their spark, find their creativity, find their journey toward what drives them or what fuels them through education. In the library's case, also through an important aspect of literacy. I would like to think that universities and educational systems also do that as well, but libraries are definitely focused on literacy, whereas we're focused from education in a very general, broad sense. So when I think about, and I hear mention of the Tom Ridge Environmental Center, I want to reiterate that I agree completely that it's an incredible facility for our community. And I think that it's a similar, but I hope you may have seen different resource in terms of the exhibits and what we're trying to achieve in those spaces and what we're trying to share about our area. One thing that I think is very important to Gannon is that as we began working on this project, learning that there are many individuals in our community and in the city of Erie, which I'm also a resident, that don't have transportation to get to all areas of our region, may not be able to get their way to the Tom Ridge Environmental Center. So one thing that we really aspire to do is to make this information accessible and hopefully, again, different, add to what is available to the community, but accessible to our local residents, those who might use the library as a source of information, as a source to educate themselves about this beautiful resource that's right outside the door of the library. So when I think about common good, I think about those individuals and how are we providing education and environmental literacy and ways to engage and learn about their backyard, their community, and something that impacts potentially their daily lives, whether they or their family fish in Prescott Bay and Lake Erie, or utilize the lake and bay in other ways. How do we engage them and allow them to learn more about this incredible resource in a way that they have access to? So I think that's one of the things that I wanted to share about that. There was a question about the NOAA Science on the Sphere and the process, and we have been working with the vendor and will continue to do so. It's a little early to complete kind of the application process, so in terms of a status, we have not submitted that application yet, but we will do so. We are super excited about including that sphere. We have gotten information from the vendors on kind of the parameters to install the sphere, so we have an open dialogue, open conversation to move forward with that project. But again, haven't completed the application process yet. You would not see Erie listed on their website yet. That will come with time once we get closer to finishing the design. Again, gathering all of your feedback to complete that process. We'll move into more formal stages of the planning and construction documents and so forth. So all of that is forthcoming. And then partnerships, there was the comment and question about partnering with others. I appreciated that very much. I think, and Dr. Mason is very eager to engage and connect with partners, not only our other higher ed institutions, but other community organizations throughout Erie. So the Bayfront Maritime Center, the Bayfront Maritime Museum, the Sons of Lake Erie, PAC grant. We already are partnered with the Regional Science Consortium in a number of meaningful ways, and they will also be an important partner in thinking about developing programming to offer, again, our own K-12 students, local residents, and certainly welcome tourists as well. But I think throughout the year, our target audience is really our community and our residents here in Erie County. So we'll continue to do that. Again, really appreciate that comment and look forward to seeking funding to support all of the operations and maintenance of the facility. And that was the other question regarding maintenance. All of that is Gannon's responsibility to maintain the exhibits, ensure that they're in working order to operate and provide staff for the center and offer the programs. While the library will have access to the spaces, should they choose or want to use them throughout the day for their own programming and or collaborative programming, Gannon is responsible for all of those resources to offer our own programming to the community as well. And then finally, I wanted to just end with the, again, feedback form and the opportunity to continue this conversation, to share the questions you have for us, and certainly, again, any continued thoughts on the design to support our completion of the design process. So, thank you.
Nobody's addressed access to shared spaces. So many of us have asked about that.
I can comment a little bit about that. So I am familiar with the lease, so I know what it says in the lease. That being said, in terms of the center, Gannon's intent is we will be utilizing the space, the 3,280 square feet of the center to offer our programming. For the classroom or those other spaces that are mentioned in the lease, we are beholden to the schedule that's maintained by the library. So the library at any time can tell us we're not able to use the space, if it is reserved for other purposes or community purposes or library purposes. We are, we have to go through the same process in terms of reserving any of those spaces for use.
So we don't have to pay.
So,
But for free.
But for free.
correct.
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Does that help us?
Nobody else gets them for free.
Don't you get, does that help in any of the costs to maintain this building? You can get all this stuff free.
When the maintenance costs just been cut.
So I'll just comment, so Gannon University through a lease is paying for the space that we're utilizing, and we're providing the center, and it'll be, all of the resources in the center will be accessible to the public for free.
Sometimes.
Access when the library's closed.
Can you repeat your question?
Would you have access to the building when the library's closed?
We would have access to the center.
Just blurt loud, they're not gonna call on you.
Oh, sorry. My question is why is providing transportation and access to the Erie Public Library that you were saying that you're going to do through Project Neptune connected to Project Neptune? If that's already a need in the community, I would encourage you to be doing that regardless. But I'm just wondering why it has to be connected just simply to your presence here in Gannon University, or Gannon University's presence here. I'm just wondering why it's connected just simply to Project Neptune when, if that is already a need that you have observed in our communities, why isn't that something that, is already being done? Increasing the access, just as it's already an educational place, to already providing literacy. And if it was just a need increase, altruistically, I'm just wondering why it has to be connected to this science center and to this project. Why isn't it just something that you guys just do if you've already recognized it as a need in our community?
So I would like to respond to that saying that that's why one of the reasons I believe the library is a very important place for it is because members of our community that I think I would want to provide this information. We want to provide the information about the lake and the resources that are available through understanding water quality and education and environmental literacy is really important. I think it's a really great location so that individuals who may not have access to these other areas like the Tom Ridge Environmental Science Center or the Experience Children's Museum, that they would have access to for free in a place that they may already be able to travel to.
And if anyone else has any other questions, I would welcome you to come up to the microphone and
Well,
ask
that's
the
fine, but
questions. We have a
they
few
have
more.
not been answering our questions. I would like to know, you have a very nice library, and you talk about how the Trek Center is not accessible. Actually, not all of the EMTA buses go to the library. I think a downtown location for almost 90% of the project, other than that stupid wet room, do not need to be at the library. So if you so much care about people accessing the information, it should be downtown where all of the buses go, not some of the buses. And I also would like to know, given your record of disregard for accessibility of sidewalks during construction, how do you plan to maintain access to all our sidewalks when you are constructing this project? And this is a Gannon question, because you do have a dismal record of accessibility when you have construction projects.
That's not a question that I'm prepared to answer or address relative to Gannon's campus.
No, but I'm talking about when you are building at the library. how are you going to ensure that you do not block any of the sidewalk?
I mean, so that would be part of our construction plans and the permits that we would have to have in order to begin the project.
And if anyone else, we do have a few extra minutes. If anyone else has any questions, we would invite you to come up to the microphone and share them.
Just, I mean, the construction team would build the project through that rear entrance. The public access to the library wouldn't be affected at all by any of that.
If you are parking where I had to park, that's a sidewalk people use. People use that sidewalk.
So we can take that into account and create a construction management plan where the contractor can park away from the site, do carpooling to bring contractors to the site, and only use 1 or 2 parking spots for deliveries. Those are things that we can handle through that construction management plan.
And if you have any ideas on how to address that, we encourage you to actually provide your input through the public forum. Because and as a reminder, your comments, questions, and feedback are invaluable. So if you have ideas on how to solve that issue, we would welcome having those ideas. And just to wrap up, thank you.
Yeah, my name's Nancy Shea. I remember the presentation, I think it was Sarah Ewing that said that it's instrumental that this program be in the public library, and I'd like for you to address that.
So, again, aligning that mission of education and wanting to provide access to our local community, our local residents, to engage in the work and understand more about the Lake Erie, the Great Lakes system, and these water systems that really connect us all. That's where the mission of this Great Lakes Education and Research Center really aligns with bringing it to a place or location that the community or those individuals have access to and can engage, and that we can partner with to deliver programming that meets the needs of our students, our teachers, and our residents.
But don't you agree that the public library embodies all knowledge? Like everything from anything you would ever want to know, like history, science, art, but you are taking a large space and giving it a very narrow focus, just environmental. I mean, you're not even doing science. You're not doing medicine. You're not doing other chemistry. You're not doing physics. You're doing environmental science. So you're taking the entire body of knowledge that should embody our library, and you're giving it a very narrow focus, and you're trying to sell it to the public. And the public really doesn't buy it. And I really don't think you're listening. I think if you were listening, you would see that we have valid concerns that you are not addressing. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your input.
I just was thinking. I spent the better part of my career working in water treatment, Erie water treatment plants, and in wastewater treatment at the Erie wastewater treatment plant. And if you want to make an impact on the children, you do not need to build a place, especially not in the library. Just take them on the tours of the water treatment plant, and especially the wastewater treatment plant. I conducted tours there with children. And by the end of the tour, I said, this is why you need to stay in school and get a good education, that you don't end up working here. Thank you.
I wanted to say that I absolutely agree that the goal is to increase the patronage of the library, and I understand that, but I feel like it was also a very good point that I believe Greta, you had mentioned regarding when it comes to tax, if the goal is education, then it absolutely would be more accessible to have it downtown. Now, if the research center does have to be so close to the water, wouldn't it make a lot of sense to reduce the amount of construction needed to build things that don't need to be at the Bayfront, have an exhibit downtown that people can easily access, and then you could almost segue that into, hey, we can have tours of the research facility in the library. I know that wouldn't be perfect, and still concerns come up regarding construction and smell and HVAC and all of that, but I don't see why it has to be all one or all the other. Why do we need an exhibit essentially in the library versus having all of that information accessible to people who can just walk to it, and then, oh, well, they mentioned that there's something at the library I can check out, because I'm always down that everyone always wants more reasons to go to the library. We want more reasons for people to have. However,
So, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you've already had your 3 minutes. Was there another question or concern that you'd like to provide input with?
no, I just thought this was a sort of follow-up thing, but yeah, that's all I wanted to really say.
So, thank you.
If I have the ability to address that, is that okay if I do that? Yes. I think that, and I am a former environmental educator, full disclosure, coming from that career to this one. Part of what I think is, and yes, there are a lot of concerns that people have, and not all of them can be answered in this moment. But one of the things that I think is a positive of this is we have the opportunity to have children in the library space where they see the water right behind them. I mean, if you've been in the children's library, it is immediately outside the window. And give them an opportunity to explore learning opportunities in multiple ways while they are already in our space. As an educator, one of the things that's most difficult when it comes to creating learning experiences for children is taking something that is written on a page and bringing it to life. What this does for us, and I'm not discounting anyone's concerns, but what this does for us is allows us to give them the opportunity to have those learning experiences go from the written page into a real life experience in the same space, in the same moment, so we don't lose the opportunity to create those magical learning moments.
We don't need you to be doing this. Your job is to know the library.
I have a comment. Back in the beginning of all of this, the library wasn't even on your short list to put Neptune. Now all of a sudden it is the end-all, be-all location for this program to take place in. It can't happen anywhere else. It seems like until you got messed up on your lease with the Union Fish Company, that was the place to have it. There are other places you can have this. You're just trying to sell something you already have decided that you're going to do to the taxpayers of this county. And everybody has an opinion on this, but the fact of the matter is, if this is a good deal for Gannon financially and location-wise and marketing-wise, and that's what this is all about from your perspective. Yeah. Period. And as far as all the ADA requirements that you're meeting for your program, I'm glad you're doing that. How about putting some dollars towards some ADA assistance to the library to get people from the first floor to the second floor to access computers, since you moved them back upstairs to create your space. You know, you can have your research lab at the east entrance back there, and you can have your other space in a different location than the prime library spot that it's going to be in. It doesn't have to be the front and center activity when people come into the library, but that's where you're putting it.
So thank you for your input. And we've already given people an opportunity to provide their input.
You have 20 minutes left. You guys all got to speak as much as you want. You should just stuff it and let us talk.
You want to push this project on it, you might as well listen to us.
We're the taxpayers. We're the taxpayers.
I won't do anything else.
We'd like to give the opportunity for anyone else who hasn't already spoken.
I didn't use my 3 minutes, ma'am.
Yeah, she only used like 1.5.
Well, I can speak loud enough that everybody can hear me whether it's on or off. I'm just saying, as a child development specialist, I don't see any of this as child-centric. It's Gannon-centric. I don't see that it was developed by means of what children want, by how children learn and how the brain learns. It's more about, look at this exhibit, doesn't it look beautiful? It's all for Gannon and whatever they want to present, and it just keeps coming out different. Every time you have, either a press conference or you get together with that person and a new director who has an environmental science background, as an educator, I developed curriculum for numbers of years. And I was a part of the French Creek project. If you talk about the Allegheny River flowing in the other direction and the species that is different than any place else that you can find because of the glaciers that were created by the Great Lakes, or the Great Lakes were created by the glaciers. This does not seem to have that child-centric environmental thing. It's about Gannon and the lab and what that person, if it's Sherry Mason or whomever, has a vision for. It's not the vision of what children, how they think, how they act, how they behave, how many of them, how they learn in a social setting. You can't get 25 kids in, that's the probably average class, into any of those spaces at any given time. And no bus is gonna bring 18 kids at a time from every corner of this county into your library space. It's a waste of gas. Teachers want to collaborate together. They have 100 kids. And you're not doing 100 kids, regardless of what you just said, in that library, in a space that's developed like the architects who have done a great job. I have an art degree. I'm not objecting to that, but this vision that you have from your experiences it doesn't mesh. It's not going to work. You can't manage kids based on those spaces. And it's not a child-centric experience for them.
Thank you for your input.
Just to clear up a little bit of misunderstanding or misspeaking on my part. So when we have 100 kids come here, we understand that especially with the cost of transportation, getting kids to us, no school is going to pay to bring 18 or 20 children. We have already been working with the Maritime Museum, the Lake Erie Lights, the Lighthouse Organization, and Hagen History Center to create rotational field trips where children get a multi-curricular, a cross-curricular experience when they come into the space. This would be one more opportunity that would be here and hands-on and would have professionals that that have expertise that we do not have to enhance those, to continue to offer that. We do that for young students, we do it for older students, we do it for homeschool students. This would just be another piece that we could add to that to make this a more robust and engaging place to bring those buses of those students.
Dr. Ewing, any wrap-up comments?
So my only comment is just I appreciate Jessica sharing that clarification, and I want to reiterate Dr. Mason's comments on the video. Similarly, that's what she was implying, is how the center could accommodate a group of 18 to 20 students as one of the groups out of that cohort of 100 students who might be bused to the library to experience different programs throughout the library, the museum, or Hagen History Center, etc. The other the only other comment I'd like to address is, in thinking about the center, and certainly the center is focused on the water, and looking at Lake Erie, the Great Lakes, how that connects us more broadly to across the world, and also does have an education and research lab that allows us to do hands-on science-based activities. But again, that space is being designed to be very creative. So for example, the faculty that we're working with at Gannon to think about what programming we would want to offer through the space includes things, and we got questions about this as well, theater and poetry and being creative, that art wall. How do we engage our community in doing art exhibits on that wall and that being a rotating exhibit? So I am and do respect all disciplines in education, and the center does not have the name science in it. So it is really the center, the Great Lakes Education and Research Center, and that can include disciplines from all disciplines, not just the sciences.
Okay, so we are grateful for you taking the time to engage in the design process by sharing your comments and questions. We invite and encourage you to visit the website further to review the design that was talked about today, and or to provide any comments or suggestions on new ideas or other things that could be considered in the programming. And to ensure access, the link is posted here. It's also posted near the computers in the library. The form can be submitted anonymously, and the presentation boards are in the lobby, and online feedback form will remain available through Sunday. So there'll be a few extra days to get additional comments, questions, and provide input. Thank you all for your attendance today.
I'm sorry, how do we get the answers for that? How are those given back to us?
Go ahead.
If you choose, you can include your name and contact information when you submit the form, and we'll work to follow up with those who've asked us to do so in the form.
In like email, or is it going to be another like in person? Like, are we going to get to have a committee or something like that? Like how?
So we'll create an FAQ sheet to support questions that are,
I'm sorry,
and frequently asked questions sheet that will be made available on our website. Again, www.gannon.edu/water is the site you can access both to fill out the form, review the renderings further, and that's where we would provide any further information responses to commonly asked questions. And then follow up maybe by email or phone. It'll depend on the feedback and the questions we receive.
And we have talked a lot about access and people who don't have, and a lot of people don't actually have online access. How are we getting the word out to the people
have to go to
who
the
have
library.
the opportunity to make these kinds of questions and do feedback and do these kinds of back and forth or get information for people who don't have that access and who are only able to, have limited
So we've posted that to make it available here at the library, so those who are coming to the library have the ability to know that these are happening, the sessions are happening, and how to provide their feedback online, so they can go there.
We were just told that people don't have access to the library, and part of this whole project was helping to get that. So is there any other way, or maybe I'm just suggesting, if you could figure out another way in order to get that information out to people, maybe through the schools or what have you, or community centers, that would be appreciated.
Thank you for your input. And thank you all for attending today.
Yeah, right.
That's like totally, nobody ever does that.